The planet was alive with storms. Jagged mountains pierced the orange sky, and lightning danced across the horizon like angry veins of light. Lara, a young alien scientist from the planet Veralia, struggled against the wind, her long coat flapping wildly. Her research team had been caught unprepared by a sudden seismic eruption, and now the ground itself threatened to swallow them. Lara's small group had found shelter in the remains of a research outpost, but the structure shuddered with each tremor. Dust choked the air and the sound of cracking rock echoed in every direction. She tried to calm the panicked team members around her. "We need to hold together," she shouted over the storm. "Stay close and follow the emergency protocols." Her voice was steady, but inside fear clawed at her. Veralia was advanced, yet the planet's fury was beyond anything they had planned for. Every instinct told her they might not survive the night. Then, out of the orange haze, she saw a figure moving with calm determination, stepping through the chaos as if the storm were nothing. It was unlike any being she had seen before. A human, tall, lean, and confident, approaching them with a small hovercraft. "Lara Veralia?" The human called over the roar of wind. His voice was calm, with an authority that made people listen. "I'm here to get you out." "Move quickly." Lara blinked. Humans were rare visitors in this sector, usually involved in trade or research monitoring. They were unpredictable, even reckless sometimes. But this one exuded a strange courage. Without hesitation, she signaled her team to follow him. The human guided them through the collapsing terrain with precision. He pointed out weak spots in the crumbling structures, carried supplies for those who faltered, and reassured the terrified team members. Every step was calculated, every decision seemingly instinctive. Lara couldn't help but admire his bravery and his care for life. Finally, they reached the hovercraft. It was small but sturdy, equipped with emergency thrusters. The human helped Lara climb aboard, then directed her team to do the same. "Hold on," he said. His eyes scanned the horizon. "This storm isn't natural. It's unusual. We have to be fast." The hovercraft lifted off just as the ground below erupted in a cascade of fire and rock. Lara watched in awe, then fear, as the research outpost disappeared beneath the shaking planet. Once airborne, the human's calm demeanor never wavered. He guided them through turbulent skies, dodging lightning and debris. Lara noticed that despite the chaos, he seemed to anticipate every danger before it arrived. She began, but he cut her off with a small smile. "Captain Ethan Hale," he introduced himself. "I've flown through worse. You'll be safe with me." His confidence was infectious. For the first time in hours, Lara felt a flicker of hope. Hours later, after navigating the storm, the hovercraft touched down on a neighboring plateau that had been unaffected by the eruption. Lara and her team disembarked, exhausted but alive. This is incredible," Lara whispered, looking at the destruction below. "We didn't think we'd make it." Ethan shook his head. "The universe has a strange way of testing us. Sometimes it's just about keeping your wits and moving forward." Lara studied him, feeling a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. He was human, yes, but there was something about him that made her heart quicken. A combination of courage, intelligence, and kindness. She had read about humans in reports, adaptable, daring, and surprisingly resilient. She had never imagined meeting one in such a life-or-death moment. As night fell, they set up a temporary shelter in a nearby cave system. Lara and her team were safe, but the danger wasn't over. Sensors on the hovercraft detected strange energy fluctuations in the area, the same kind of phenomena that had caused the storm. "This isn't just a natural disaster," Ethan muttered. "Something else is out there, something alive in its own way." He spent the night studying the readings while Lara watched him work. She had always valued knowledge and observation, but Ethan's approach was different. He combined data with instinct, logic with intuition. By morning, he had mapped a path that would take them out of the danger zone completely. "Tomorrow we move at first light," he told her. "We'll make it through safely, but we have to act fast. Stay alert." The next day, as they prepared to leave, the planet seemed to rebel even more fiercely. Winds howled, rocks tumbled, and the ground split beneath their feet. Lara clutched her gear, fear threatening to overwhelm her, but Ethan remained steady. Halfway through the journey, the energy fluctuations grew stronger. A strange light erupted from the ground, surrounding them in a shimmering aura. Lara's instincts screamed that this was no ordinary hazard. "Stay close," Ethan shouted. "I've got this." The light pulsed and swirled, forming an almost tangible wall around them. Lara watched, mesmerized and terrified, as Ethan extended his hand toward the energy. It didn't harm him. Instead, it seemed to recognize him, responding to his presence. "I can get us through," he said, "but I might need to go first." "Trust me," Lara hesitated. "You can't." "I have to," he interrupted. "I've done this before. We'll all make it, but I need you to stay ready to follow." Before she could protest further, Ethan stepped into the glowing energy. For a moment it shimmered harmlessly around him. Then in a sudden burst of light he was gone and vanished. Lara froze. Her heart thudded in her chest. She scanned the area frantically. The energy remained humming, alive, but Ethan was nowhere. "No," she shouted. "This isn't possible." The remaining team was stunned. Lara felt the weight of responsibility crushing her. She had to get them back safely. Despite her fear, she led her team through the path Ethan had cleared, following the route he had prepared. Every step reminded her of him, his confidence, his courage, his determination. Finally, they reached safety. Lara collapsed to the ground, exhausted and shaken. She couldn't believe he was gone. The memories of the past hours replayed in her mind. His calm in the storm, his quick decisions, his bravery. In the following days, Lara tried to report the incident. But there was no evidence, no trace of what had taken Ethan. Scientists and officials speculated endlessly. A natural anomaly, a miscalculation, a rare dimensional event. But Lara knew. She knew he hadn't simply vanished. Something else had taken him. Something extraordinary. Despite her grief, Lara refused to let the event define her. She returned to her civilization, bringing with her the data Ethan had left behind, notes he had written about the strange energy phenomena. She dedicated herself to understanding the forces that had claimed him, and deep down she carried a quiet hope. A hope that one day somehow Ethan Hale would return. Lara looked up at the sky each night, stars twinkling like distant beacons. Somewhere out there, in the vast expanse of space and perhaps other dimensions, the human who had risked everything to save her was alive. She promised herself that she would find him, no matter how long it took. The universe was vast and mysterious, but if she had learned anything in those terrifying hours, it was this: courage, intelligence, and heart could change destiny. And Ethan Hale had all three in abundance. With a renewed sense of purpose, Lara turned back to her work, unaware that her journey to uncover the truth about Ethan and the strange energies that had taken him was only just beginning. 5 years had passed since the stormy day when Ethan Hale had vanished. Lara Varelia had changed in ways she never expected. The young scientist who had once trembled at the thought of losing a team now led a research division studying interdimensional phenomena, the same strange energy that had taken Ethan. Her work was respected, her voice listened to, and yet, despite her achievements, a quiet emptiness lingered in her heart. Every night she would gaze at the stars, imagining him somewhere in the vastness of space or another reality. She could almost feel his calm presence beside her, guiding her as he had during that storm. But he was gone, and though she had tried to move forward, nothing had replaced the courage and hope he had inspired. The Varelian Council had praised her bravery, and she had earned a place among the top scientists of her species. Yet every report, every anomaly she investigated, every strange reading she studied, reminded her of Ethan. His methods had been unorthodox, combining instinct with data in ways she had never seen. She often wondered what he might have done in the face of these mysteries. It was a quiet day when the first unusual report arrived. Lara was in her office reviewing sensor data from a remote sector when her assistant called out, "Dr. Varelia." "You should see this," the assistant said, voice tinged with disbelief. Lara leaned over the console. On the screen, faint signals flickered across the outer colonies, signals that didn't match any known human or Varelian technology. Yet the pattern, the rhythm, and even the timing seemed familiar. "Run a comparison," Lara instructed. Her heart thumped as she recognized a pattern she had seen years ago, Ethan's signature method of interacting with energy fields. Minutes later, the results confirmed it. The signals were human in origin, but they were unlike any human transmission Lara had studied, and the pattern was unmistakable. It matched Ethan's calculations exactly. Could it really be him? Her assistant asked quietly. Lara didn't answer at once. Her mind raced, weighing hope against the harsh reality of 5 years. But deep down, she felt the same certainty she had felt when Ethan had first arrived on Varelia. He was alive. Somehow he had survived the energy surge and now he was reaching out. Determined, Lara began preparations for a journey she had never imagined she would take. She gathered her team, organized supplies, and studied maps of the sector where the signals originated. Every calculation brought more questions. How had Ethan survived? Where had he been all these years? And most importantly, why was he only now returning? The journey was long and challenging. The ship traveled through asteroid belts, skirting gravitational anomalies and passing regions where sensor readings fluctuated wildly. Lara studied every detail, applying both Varelian science and what she had learned from Ethan's notes. Each step brought her closer to him, and with it a growing excitement she had not felt in years. Finally, after weeks of navigation and calculations, the ship approached a remote planet unlike any she had seen. Its surface was rugged, dotted with sharp cliffs and strange crystal formations that emitted a soft hum. The signals were strongest here. Lara's heart raced. She could almost feel Ethan's presence guiding her through the strange terrain. The landing was tense. The planet's atmosphere was thin, and the wind carried a strange energy that made the air shimmer. Lara suited up and stepped onto the surface, scanning with sensors that picked up faint signs of human life. There, in a narrow valley, she saw it. A settlement of humans, thriving despite the harsh environment. Structures were built into the cliffs, powered by energy that seemed alive. Pulsing gently with an internal rhythm, people moved with purpose, carrying out daily tasks with efficiency and focus. But one figure stood out: Ethan. He was taller than she remembered, his frame lean but strong. His hair was longer, windswept, and his eyes held a depth she hadn't seen before. A mixture of wonder, experience, and something else. Something unspoken. Lara felt tears prick her eyes as she called his name. Ethan! He turned slowly, scanning the horizon, and then his eyes widened in recognition. A smile spread across his face, the same calm confidence she remembered. Lara, he said softly, his voice carrying over the wind. She ran toward him, her heart pounding with relief and disbelief. When they finally met, they embraced briefly, a mix of joy and the weight of 5 long years. You survived, Lara whispered. I did, Ethan replied. And I've learned things. Things I need to explain. But first tell me everything. How did you... She told him of Virelia, of the council, and the work she had done inspired by him. He listened carefully, nodding with admiration. I always knew you'd continue, he said. I just didn't know how much you would accomplish. The reunion was bittersweet. Though Ethan had returned, the strange energy that had taken him was not gone. Sensors still detected anomalies, small at first, then growing in intensity. He explained that his disappearance had not been random. He had been caught in an interdimensional flux, a sort of bridge between realities. He had learned to survive, but the flux was unstable, and now fragments of it threatened to disrupt this planet as well as nearby systems. We need to act, Ethan said, his tone calm but urgent. The energy is spreading. If left unchecked, it could affect more than just this planet. Lara nodded, determination hardening within her. Then we'll solve it together, she said, like we did before. Over the next few days, they explored the settlement and the surrounding areas, analyzing the anomalies. Ethan's experience gave him unique insight. He could sense fluctuations in the energy, anticipate patterns, and predict the next surge. Lara combined this with her deep scientific knowledge, and together, they began to stabilize the most dangerous zones. It wasn't easy. The energy was unpredictable, at times violent, at times almost sentient. But the humans' ingenuity, paired with Varelian precision, made them a formidable team. They began to gain the trust of the settlers, who marveled at Ethan's calm bravery and Lara's brilliant mind. One evening, as the twin suns of the planet set, casting a golden glow over the jagged cliffs, Ethan and Lara stood together on a ridge overlooking the settlement. You've changed, Ethan said quietly. Not just your work. Your confidence, your presence. You've become someone remarkable, Lara. She smiled, feeling warmth she hadn't experienced in years. I had to. I couldn't stop thinking about you, about what you might be going through. I promised myself I'd keep moving forward no matter what. Ethan nodded. And you did. You were right to hope. But there's more to understand. The energy. It's not just dangerous. It's intelligent, testing us in ways we can't fully grasp yet. And it's learning from us as we interact with it. Lara's mind raced. If the energy could learn, it could also adapt. That meant their work was more critical than ever. We'll need to combine everything we know, human and Varelian methods, she said, and maybe more. There's no room for mistakes. Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Then let's make sure we're ready. Together. As night fell, the settlement glowed softly with energy shields, and the wind hummed a strange song through the cliffs. Lara watched the sky, thinking of the long journey ahead. The human who had vanished had returned, and with him came hope, knowledge, and the courage to face the unknown. For the first time in 5 years, Lara felt truly alive. The adventure was far from over, but she no longer faced it alone. And somewhere deep inside, she knew that the challenges ahead would not only test their skills but also reveal the true strength of humanity and the bond that had brought them together. The planet's twin suns rose slowly over the jagged cliffs, casting long shadows across the settlement. Lara and Ethan stood at the edge of a crystal-studded plateau, their eyes scanning the horizon. The energy anomalies that had brought Ethan back were still present, growing in intensity and unpredictability. This was no ordinary planetary disturbance. It was something alive, something observing, something that seemed to challenge them with every pulse and shimmer of light. Ethan crouched, placing his hands lightly on the crystal formations. The hum resonated beneath his fingers. "It's reacting to me again," he murmured. "The energy remembers the time I spent in the flux. It recognizes patterns, behaviors, maybe even intentions." Lara knelt beside him, her scanner in hand. The readings were extraordinary. The energy was intelligent in some way, adaptive and capable of shaping the environment around it. It wasn't hostile, at least not entirely, but it could be devastating if ignored. "We need to map its behavior fully," Lara said. "Every pulse, every wave, every shift. Only then can we predict its next move and keep the settlement safe." Ethan nodded, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "Agreed, but there's more. I've seen something similar before. A larger structure, a central source of the energy. It's not just this planet. It's a system-wide network. And if we don't reach the core, the anomalies will keep spreading." Lara's heart raced. 5 years had passed since she'd last seen him, and now the stakes were higher than ever. But she wasn't afraid. She had Ethan, and together they had faced impossible situations before. The next several days were a blur of observation, calculation, and preparation. Ethan taught the settlers techniques to stabilize local energy fluctuations, while Lara analyzed the data to predict the larger anomalies' behavior. The settlers watched in awe as the pair worked seamlessly together, a human and a Varelian, combining intellect and instinct to address a challenge none of them had fully understood. One evening, after hours of work, Ethan turned to Lara. "I think I've located the source," he said, pointing toward a distant mountain range where the energy pulses were strongest. "But it's not going to be easy to reach. The environment near the core is unstable, dangerous even for experienced travelers." Lara's eyes met his, determination shining. "We've come this far. We can't turn back now. Let's go." The journey to the core was treacherous. They traveled through canyons where crystal shards hummed with energy, across unstable plateaus that shifted underfoot, and through storms of electrical particles that danced across the sky. Each step required careful calculation and quick reflexes. Yet despite the danger, Lara felt alive in a way she hadn't in years. The thrill of discovery, the risk, and the presence of Ethan beside her made her senses sharper, her mind clearer. Finally, after days of travel, they reached the edge of a vast chasm. Below them, the energy surged in waves of light and sound, forming shapes and patterns that defied understanding. It was as if the very planet had a heartbeat, and they were standing above it. "This is it," Ethan said, his voice steady but filled with awe. "The core. Everything begins here." Lara activated her scanner, carefully mapping the energy's patterns. The readings were unlike anything she had seen. The energy seemed almost sentient, forming shapes that suggested intelligence and purpose. "It's communicating," she said softly. "Not in words, but in patterns. It's testing us, maybe trying to understand us. Or see if we're ready for something." Ethan studied the pulses. "It's familiar yet different from anything I've experienced. When I was caught in the flux, I learned to interact with it, to respond to it. Maybe it recognizes that, Maybe it's waiting for a solution. Lara nodded. Then we have to respond carefully. One wrong move, and it could destabilize the system entirely. They spent hours observing, testing, and analyzing. Every action they took caused a reaction from the energy, a ripple that spread across the chasm. Slowly, a pattern emerged. The energy seemed to respond best to creativity and cooperation, actions that combined logic, intuition, and empathy. Lara realized that the energy wasn't merely a force. It was a test, a challenge designed to gauge intelligence and understanding. We need to approach it together, she said. Not as individuals, but as a team. Ethan agreed, and they moved carefully toward the core, each step synchronized. Lara manipulated the energy with her scientific tools, stabilizing fluctuations and guiding its flow. Ethan used his instinctive understanding, predicting the energy's responses and adjusting their approach in real time. The combination of human intuition and Varelian precision created a rhythm, a dialogue with the energy itself. Suddenly, a surge erupted, stronger than anything they had encountered. The ground trembled and the air shimmered with blinding light. Lara struggled to maintain control of her instruments while Ethan extended his hands toward the energy, calming it with a presence that seemed to command trust. For a tense moment, nothing moved. Then slowly the energy shifted, forming a stable, pulsating core that radiated warmth and light instead of chaos. It was as if it had accepted their approach, recognizing their intent and cooperation. Lara breathed deeply, relief washing over her. "We did it," she whispered. Ethan smiled, though exhaustion showed on his face. "We did, but this is only the beginning. The energy is vast, and this core is connected to systems across multiple planets. We need to understand its full purpose." They spent the next several days documenting their observations, carefully mapping the core's interactions with surrounding environments. The settlers assisted, eager to learn from the human and the Varelian who had tamed a force beyond comprehension. Together they stabilized local anomalies, creating safe zones where life could continue without fear. One evening, as Lara and Ethan rested near the edge of the chasm, she turned to him. "I never stopped hoping you'd come back," she said quietly. Ethan looked at her, a faint smile touching his lips. "I never stopped trying to return, and I'm glad you did too. Together, we're stronger than we could ever be apart." Lara felt a warmth spread through her chest. The years of fear and uncertainty seemed to dissolve in that moment. For the first time in half a decade, she felt complete, not because the danger was gone, but because they faced it together. As they gazed at the energy core, a soft hum filled the air, resonating through their bodies. It was a sound of understanding, of acknowledgement, of trust. The energy was alive, yes, but it had recognized something in them as well. Courage, intelligence, and the willingness to act for the good of others. "We've only scratched the surface," Ethan said. "The universe is bigger than we can imagine, and this is just one part of it. But we'll face it together. One step at a time," Lara nodded, determination burning in her eyes. The human who had vanished had returned, bringing not just survival and hope, but also knowledge and courage. And now, together, they would uncover the mysteries that lay ahead, bridging the gap between human intuition and alien science, showing that bravery and understanding could shape the universe itself. The sun dipped below the jagged horizon, casting long shadows over the stabilized core. Lara and Ethan stood together, looking out at the valley below, their hearts and minds aligned. Whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them side by side. The universe was vast and full of unknowns, but one thing was certain. With courage, intelligence, and collaboration, they could meet any challenge, and perhaps even change the course of the galaxy itself. The energy core they had stabilized was only the beginning. Ethan and Lara soon realized that its reach extended far beyond the remote planet, weaving through systems like invisible threads of light and power. What they had assumed was a localized anomaly was, in truth, a cosmic network, a living system that spanned multiple planets and dimensions. "This isn't just energy," Ethan said as they studied the latest scans. "It's a test, something created to challenge civilizations, to measure their intelligence, courage, and problem-solving." Lara nodded, eyes narrowing in thought. "Then we've passed the first challenge. But there must be more. If it reaches this far, there has to be a central source." Ethan agreed. "Exactly. And I think it's waiting for us to find it." The real question is, what happens if we fail? The two set out on a journey to trace the energy's network. They traveled across treacherous planets, each presenting its own challenges. On one icy world, shifting glaciers threatened to bury them alive. On another, massive magnetic storms interfered with their instruments, forcing them to rely on instinct and observation. With every trial, the energy seemed to respond, subtly changing, sometimes aiding them, sometimes testing them more harshly. On a desert planet of jagged red cliffs, they encountered the first of the energy's deliberate challenges. Large pillars of light rose from the ground, shifting constantly, forming a labyrinth that blocked their path. The pillars pulsed with strange patterns, almost like a language, and any wrong move triggered waves of destabilizing energy. "We need to think differently," Lara said, watching the patterns. "It's not just a puzzle. It's testing our ability to work together, to anticipate and adapt." Ethan studied the labyrinth carefully. "Agreed, let's combine our methods. Your calculations, my instincts, one step at a time." The two moved in synchrony. Lara measured distances, angles, and energy fluctuations, while Ethan responded to intuitive cues, predicting shifts in the pillars. Slowly, they advanced, their combined efforts allowing them to navigate the labyrinth without triggering the energy's defensive waves. When they reached the center, the energy coalesced into a towering structure of shimmering light, radiating warmth and intelligence. It pulsed rhythmically, almost as if acknowledging their success. "This is incredible," Lara whispered. It's alive," Ethan nodded. "And it knows us. It responds to our actions. That's why we've made it this far. But the core is still ahead. I can feel it. The real source is waiting." Their next challenge took them to a planet covered in dense forests where the energy manipulated the environment itself. Trees shifted, roots moved like living creatures, and the ground became unstable with each step. It was a test of observation, courage, and adaptability. Lara and Ethan moved carefully, reading the environment like a puzzle. Their cooperation was flawless. Lara's analytical mind predicted safe paths, while Ethan's instincts guided them through unseen hazards. As they advanced, the energy became more intense, forming shapes and patterns that suggested intelligence, almost like a sentient being observing their every move. It was learning from them, adapting to their strategies, and even testing their patience. Finally, after what felt like days of travel and trials, they reached a massive crystalline plateau, suspended above a void that seemed to stretch into another dimension. At the center of the plateau was the cosmic core, a pulsing sphere of light and energy that radiated power and intelligence. Lara and Ethan approached carefully. The core's pulses synced with their own heartbeat, almost as if it were measuring their courage and understanding. "It's watching us," Lara said. "Not just testing. It wants to know if we're ready." Ethan nodded, extending his hands toward the core. "Then let's show it what we've learned, together." They began interacting with the core, combining human intuition and Varelian logic. Lara stabilized fluctuations using her instruments, while Ethan responded to the core's unpredictable shifts with instinctive precision. For hours, they worked in harmony, navigating energy patterns that defied conventional understanding. Suddenly, the core surged violently, creating a wave of energy that threatened to sweep them into the void. Lara's heart raced as she struggled to maintain control of her instruments. Ethan stepped forward, extending both hands into the wave, using his presence to calm it. "Focus on intention," he shouted over the roar of energy. "Not just control." Lara understood immediately. She adjusted her approach, aligning her calculations with the core's rhythm, letting intuition guide precision. Slowly, the energy stabilized. The surge subsided, and the core pulsed with a calm, steady light, almost like a heartbeat. The core projected patterns of light and sound around them, forming images and sequences that conveyed understanding, recognition, and acknowledgement. It was as if the energy had been testing them not just for skill, but for integrity, cooperation, and courage. "We passed," Lara whispered, awestruck. It knows we're ready," Ethan smiled. "Not just ready, capable. And it has given us a gift, a way to stabilize the anomalies across the network." The energy core extended tendrils of light, transferring knowledge directly into their instruments and minds. Data, formulas, strategies, everything they needed to maintain balance across the affected systems. It was more than knowledge. It was understanding, a bridge between species and energy. As they absorbed the information, the core pulsed one last time and then began to recede, integrating into the cosmic network in a peaceful rhythm. The tests were over and the intelligence behind the energy had recognized their efforts. Lara and Ethan stepped back, exhausted but exhilarated. The journey had tested them to their limits, but they had succeeded, not because of individual brilliance, but because of teamwork, courage, and trust. Ethan turned to Lara, a faint smile on his face. "You were amazing. Your logic, your persistence, you never gave up." Lara smiled in return. "And you were incredible. You never lost faith even when things seemed impossible." "I think we make a good team," he nodded. "The best. And now we can use what we've learned to help not just this planet but many others. Humanity and Virilia, working together, we can face anything." As they prepared to return to the settlement, Lara realized how much she had grown in the past 5 years. The human who had vanished had returned, yes, but he had brought with him knowledge, courage, and an example that had changed her life completely. She was no longer just a survivor. She was a leader, ready to take the lessons of the cosmic challenge and use them to protect countless lives. The journey back was quieter, contemplative. The twin suns set again, casting long shadows over the plateau. Lara and Ethan moved side by side, their minds aligned, their hearts filled with a renewed sense of purpose. The universe was vast and filled with unknowns. But one thing was certain. Together, human intuition and alien science could overcome even the most formidable challenges. And the cosmic intelligence that had tested them would forever stand as a reminder that courage, wisdom, and collaboration were forces that could shape the fate of galaxies. As the stars appeared overhead, shimmering like distant beacons, Lara and Ethan looked toward the future, ready for whatever adventures awaited, knowing that the human who had vanished and the Varelian who had waited had found a path together, stronger than either could have imagined alone. The journey back to Virelia was quiet but filled with anticipation. Lara and Ethan had completed what no one else had dared to attempt. They had faced a living cosmic energy, navigated its trials, and gained knowledge that could protect countless worlds. Yet even as they traveled through space, their minds were occupied with the challenges that awaited them at home. The Varelian Council had been patient, but anxious. They knew Lara had survived the stormy disaster, but no one had expected that the human who had saved her would return, let alone bring knowledge of interdimensional energy and cosmic networks. Reports of unusual energy patterns and strange phenomena across nearby systems had been mounting, and the Council was eager for explanations. As their ship approached the home planet, Lara felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. It had been 5 years since she last walked the streets of her capital city, 5 years since she had faced grief and hope at the same time. She glanced at Ethan, who was quietly monitoring the instruments. His calm demeanor never wavered, but she could sense the quiet weight of everything they had endured. "Ready?" she asked. Ethan looked at her, a small smile tugging at his lips. "As ready as we'll ever be. Let's go home." Their arrival was met with astonishment and celebration. The citizens of Virelia had heard rumors of a human returning from another dimension, and now, seeing him in person, they were in awe. Scientists, council members, and civilians alike gathered to witness the reunion, and the streets were filled with whispers of admiration. Lara stepped forward, introducing Ethan to the council. "This is Captain Ethan Hale," she said proudly, "the human who saved me, who has returned with knowledge that will help us understand and stabilize the cosmic energies threatening multiple worlds." Ethan bowed respectfully to the council, his presence calm and confident. "It is an honor," he said simply. "I am here to share what I have learned and to help in any way I can." The council members were struck not only by his courage but by his humility. Here was a human who had faced forces beyond imagination, survived, and returned not for personal glory but to aid another civilization. Over the next days, Ethan and Lara worked tirelessly to share their discoveries. Using advanced Varelian technology enhanced with human insight, they demonstrated methods to monitor and stabilize cosmic energy across systems. Workshops were held, simulations run, and young scientists trained in new techniques. Every step of the way, Ethan emphasized collaboration and courage, qualities he had demonstrated in every challenge they faced. One evening, as the two walked along the observation terrace of the research complex, Lara turned to him. "I can't believe how much has changed in 5 years," she said softly. "Not just here, but in me. I've grown, learned, and faced things I never imagined I could." Ethan nodded. "And you've done it with strength and intelligence. You were always capable. Lara, I only helped you see it, and now, together, we've accomplished something remarkable." They paused to look out at the horizon, where the twin moons of Virelia hung low, casting silver light across the city. The moment was peaceful, a stark contrast to the storms and cosmic challenges they had faced. Yet beneath that calm was a sense of purpose. The universe was vast, and their work was only beginning. The following weeks were filled with more achievements. Lara and Ethan traveled to remote research stations, sharing knowledge of cosmic energy stabilization techniques. Their collaboration inspired hope and confidence across multiple systems. Humans and Virelians alike marveled at how effectively their skills complemented each other. Human intuition paired with alien logic created solutions that neither could have achieved alone. But the greatest impact was on the young generation. Children and trainees who had grown up hearing stories of the vanished human were now able to meet him in person. They saw what courage, intelligence, and determination could accomplish. Many approached Lara and Ethan with questions, eager to understand the universe and their place in it. "You've shown us that no challenge is too great," a young trainee said one evening. "Even if it seems impossible, we can find a way." Ethan knelt slightly, meeting the child's eyes. "That's right. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's taking action despite it. And understanding comes from working together and being willing to learn." Lara smiled. "And sometimes it takes a little hope and trust to see what's possible." Their efforts did not go unnoticed beyond Virelia. News of their achievements spread to neighboring civilizations. Humans were increasingly respected across interstellar communities for their ingenuity, adaptability, and bravery. Lara realized that the human who had vanished and returned had become a symbol, not of one person's heroism, but of humanity's potential to inspire and lead. One day, while reviewing data in the main lab, Lara turned to Ethan. "Do you ever wonder why the energy chose to test us?" Ethan leaned back, considering. "I think it wanted to see more than skill or intelligence. It wanted to see character, cooperation, and courage. And maybe it wanted to remind the universe that beings who can think, feel, and act for others have a unique place in the cosmos." Lara nodded. "Then we pass not just for ourselves, but for everyone who depends on these systems." Ethan smiled. "And now it's our responsibility to continue, to share what we've learned and to prepare for whatever comes next. The universe is full of unknowns and we can't face them alone, but together we can handle anything." The final days before their formal recognition ceremony were filled with anticipation. The council hall was decorated with symbols of knowledge, courage, and discovery. Scientists, officials, and citizens gathered to honor their achievements. When Lara and Ethan were called forward, the applause was thunderous. Lara stepped forward first. "This journey began 5 years ago," she said, voice steady and clear. "I was saved by a human who risked everything for me. Today he stands with me, not as a visitor but as a partner in protecting our worlds and preparing for the challenges ahead. Together we have learned that courage, intelligence, and collaboration can overcome even the most impossible obstacles." Ethan added, "The universe is vast and mysterious. There will be more challenges, more unknown forces to face, but if we approach them with courage, curiosity, and cooperation, there is no limit to what we can achieve. Humanity and Virelias working together are proof that intelligence, heart, and bravery matter more than we can imagine." The council presented them with honors that symbolized the unity of human and Virelian efforts, celebrating not just survival, but innovation, collaboration, and hope. Lara and Ethan exchanged a glance, knowing that the recognition was not the end of their journey but a beginning. Later, as the ceremony ended and the city lights glimmered beneath the twin moons, Lara and Ethan walked quietly through the gardens of the research complex. "You know," Lara said, 5 years ago I didn't think I'd see you again. I never imagined we'd accomplish all this together." Ethan chuckled softly. "Neither did I, but sometimes the universe has a strange way of giving second chances and testing us to see what we're made of." Lara smiled. "I think we've passed every test so far. And there will be more," Ethan said, looking toward the horizon. "But now we face them together, With courage, intelligence, and heart, there's nothing we cannot do. The stars sparkled above them, distant yet inviting. Lara realized that humanity's place in the universe was growing, not through conquest or power, but through ingenuity, courage, and collaboration. The human who had vanished and returned had proven that even in the vast unknown, one person and the spirit of humanity could make a difference. And as Lara and Ethan gazed into the night sky, side by side they knew that their adventures were far from over. The universe awaited, full of mysteries, challenges, and wonders. But they were ready, together, unstoppable, and a shining example of what courage and cooperation could achieve. The human who vanished had returned, and in doing so, had changed not only the life of a Varelian scientist but the future of countless worlds. And that, Lara realized, was just the beginning.